you doing all? Wow, it's weird to sit this close to the camera. It is I, Brainsmasher, and this is a collection update. Hope you like it. Hope you like the new environs. I just kind of get sick of shooting in the basement. There's no natural light. So there's some sun out today, thankfully. But now that I look at it, I don't know if this camera really deals with sunlight all that well, so it's just going to make me look like a white ghost. Anyways, bunch of CDs came into my house because I bought them this week. I don't know, 2 weeks or so. So we're going to talk about them, and I hope you like watching me talk about them. Over on the TV, I've got, I have a copy of it downstairs. I should have grabbed it. But Graffertner's Keys to the Mysteries Beyond. I had just been thinking this week, more people need to know about this. I need to use every power I have to make people know about this fucking record. It's goddamn mind-blowing, so check it out in the description down below. So, yeah, I got some stuff in. Let's see, we'll start off, here. Yesterday, so there's a city about an hour and a half away from here called Davenport, or Quad Cities is one of the Davenport is one of the Quad Cities. There's a couple of record stores there that I visit every once in a while, and they're not great or anything, but I also like information on the record stores that are there or aren't. It's kind of scant at best, and I've never really kind of like figured out what record stores actually are there remaining. So I found 5 record stores that I knew of, and I just decided I'm going to go figure out what the deal is. Yesterday I had Friday off. So I was planning on going to 5 record stores. Turned out one of them didn't exist or had closed or something recently, and 2 of them were just like video game stores with like 100 CDs that were just Linda Ronstadt and shit like that or whatever. So it basically, in theory, I went to 2 record stores, but I had a good time anyways, and picked up some actually kind of a killer haul. At the Co-op Records, there's, I don't know what happened here, but there's just like, there's a shit ton in their metal section anyways, of just the worst gore grind, the most offensive fucking stuff you could ever find. Like on every one of them, I swear there's a sticker over it that says must be 18 to purchase, or like the whole jewel case is just covered out and you can't even see what it is. You just gotta know like what the band name is or whatever. So there's a ton of that stuff, and I don't know, I know a little bit of it, but I don't really listen to any of it. I was into that stuff for a minute when I was like 23, 24, but I'd be surprised if they ever sell any of that shit. But I managed, I don't know, this is I guess more of a pity buy than anything. I did pick up this Unholy Land. I wasn't familiar with the band. I feel like it's a name that maybe I had heard or something throughout the years, but the album is called The Fall of the Chosen Star. It's on Evil Horde Records out of Brazil, and Evil Horde Records puts out some of the most mediocre stuff. It's not terrible, it's not good, it's just really nothing but forgettable. So of course I picked it up. The band is from Italy, and I listened to it once, and yeah, it's just terribly mediocre, just like any Evil Horde release is. They do release a lot of like Brazilian and South American bands. Unholy Land is not amazing, but yeah, I picked it up. The better part of the haul though was at Ragged Records. Picked up 2 Deicide records that I've kind of never, well, this one I owned for a minute and I thought it was kind of cheesy and stupid and I got rid of it. I've just been rebuying so many albums that I used to own and always kind of wanted to get back or something, and there's a couple more in here that of course I have already owned, but this one, Once Upon the Cross, I never got around to buying. I guess I just figured that I was good with Legion and Self-Titled, but this is fucking killer. I listen to it a lot. on the drive home yesterday. Totally essential deicide. I don't know why I never really got around to picking it up. I want to say you don't really see it used very often. This one I think I have seen quite a bit used. This one is really, really fun. In fact, this might even be my favorite deicide. It's the most easily palatable. It's the one where I feel like this is the one where like Glenn Benton starts singing in more 16th notes to the music rather than 8th notes on this one and the ones before. It's got a lot more of like a memorable and catchy sort of rhythm to the vocals. The music, like riff-wise, they're just stupid. Super fun, stupid death metal. And the guitar solos on this are fucking awesome. If you haven't picked this up in a while, or if you just kind of like forgot or shrugged off Deicide as like the dumb death metal band, it's really worth a revisit. It's fucking great. And this was really exciting to kind of jump into. Friends of mine had this years and years and years ago, but it's been a long time since I, really bothered listening to Deicide. But this is fucking killer. Once Upon the Cross and Serpents of the Light, great stuff. So I'm happy and pleased to pick those up for $8 a piece. So another one here I picked up. I was shocked as all hell to see this pop up. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. It's a Russian band. In English, their name is spelled N-A-V, but in Russian it's H-A-B-B. So Hab, Nav, what have you. Everything is in Russian on this, so I don't know what to tell you it's called, but it's this one. And I became aware of this band only recently because of the split with Old Wayne's that I was talking about just a couple of videos ago, and I was saying I'd love to pick up the full length, and here it is. So Meriquity Productions put this out, and it's really fun. Really nasty Russian black metal. The annoying thing about the store that I bought this in, though, actually there's a lot of annoying things, but the used metal section, I'm always really happy when the used CD section, it has the metal stuff sectioned off into another section. But any band, any release that is from Europe, even if it's like licensed in the States by another label or a distributor or whatever, it says out of print, import, rare, and they want $15 to $20 for a used CD just because the band is from fucking Poland or whatever. Like a Behemoth CD, $18 because it's a fucking import. Makes no goddamn sense. Among there being just a shit ton of fucking like Axe CDs and Lillian Star and fucking Lita Ford shit, just all kinds of garbage in there. So I bet that's probably the last time I'm ever going to comb through their metal section. So, but I did find a couple more. I found this Thy Primordial. This is the debut Thy Primordial. It's called Under Ishkal Trollmana. This is the reissue of their debut. This originally was recorded in '95, and the release I think was shelved at first because the first thing I ever heard of them putting out was Where Only the Seasons Mark the Paths of Time and Life Remains Eternal. And that blew me away, and every album ever after that one was amazing. But a couple years later, they re-released this demo tape or whatever, and I picked it up, and I fucking hated it, so I got rid of it. I think I was just kind of mystified by the fact that it was hand numbered, and the album artwork was terrible. I don't know. It doesn't do me any good to tell you why I got rid of it, but it's really amateurish. There's some really stupid parts on it, but also the diehard Thy Primordial fan that I am, I can find a little bit of charm in this. So I mean, unless you're a diehard Thy Primordial fan, what are the fucking odds of that? I'd say you could pass on this, but the completionist in me would definitely pick this up in any used bin for $9, no problem. The highlight though of this haul, Worship Him by fucking Samuel. I about jumped out of my fucking pants when I saw this. This is the JL America Osmos version of this. Classic, amazing, sinister, early black metal from Switzerland. since it's a JL America release, you're looking at all this thing has to offer. But what a collector's item for $8. Of course, I had like reissues of it and stuff. I've got an LP version of it, the one with like the hands coveting the cup or whatever. But yeah, I love JL America releases, and it's not often you see them in used bins. Like, what would that be? About 26 years after its initial release. So that's all I got yesterday in my record store haul. Also got a couple of eBay things. Just been kind of farting around on eBay looking for some cheap steals, and I don't know, kind of bit me in the ass, I guess. Got some real stupid shit. First of which being this Pandemonium double disc set. So this is the Dawn of Dream. I don't know. I thought it was always Dawn of Dreams, plural. I don't know if you can see that with the lighting. But apparently it's Dawn of Dream and Chaos, re-released on CD by Osmos. And this is... I'm embarrassed for the band and the label for this particular release. It's got fucking nothing in the booklet but children's drawings of stupid shit. The artwork is fucking terrible. There's no reason to own this. Really, you might as well just fucking download it. This is absolutely awful. I think, paid like $3 for this thing. Just to kind of get all of the Pandemonium stuff. But Pandemonium is really great stuff. It's like experimental, kind of jazz-tinged death metal from Dan Swano of Edge of Sanity. And I've just been really, really kind of, I guess, almost studying Dan Swano and Unisound Studios, worshiping, studying, whatever, lately. So picking up a lot of releases that were released or recorded in Unisound Studios or Dan Swano related kind of stuff. I don't really necessarily worship at the altar of Dan Swano as a musician. Respect the hell out of him, of course. That's a whole nother discussion. But ever since I just was completely floored by Flesh Crawls and Purity and the sound quality on that, I've just been looking for anything else that sounds even remotely like it. And he produced a ton of amazing releases, but just his job as a recording engineer in the studio is just absolutely phenomenal. So a couple more here we'll talk about that he recorded. Let's see, I also picked up... Oh, I forgot about this one. I did also pick up this one in one of the record stores yesterday. Inverloch with Subside. This is their debut EP. For you who might not know what this is the rebirth of Disembowelment, the infamous doom death band. So the original bass player from Disembowelment on guitar and the drummer from Disembowelment back on drums. And it's pretty good. I was skeptical at first of getting into it because, you know, I hate these reunions, these re-whatevers. So I didn't really listen to it at first. I wished them the best and didn't really get it, but finding it in a used bin and popping it in, I liked it. It's got a lot of potential. It looks like reviews of their debut full length, which came out a year or two later, are kind of a mixed bag. So I'm not really sure. If I find it in another used bin, I'll probably pick it up as well. But whatever. So I also got in Necrophilic. Which one is this? The Nocturnal Silence. Really, really digging like the Black Mark releases. There's just been kind of like these niche death metal kind of corners of the world that I've been digging. Black Mark stuff, Unisound stuff, Swedish death metal, and just never really got around to picking this up. And the OG copies of this thing are through the fucking roof. And I didn't want to wait any longer to pick this up. So wasn't really all that familiar with this album actually either. So going back and getting to know Necrophobic a little bit better. In fact, I'm trying to think if I even have any of their releases. I like them plenty. I can't think of it now. Is it Spawned by Evil? That album, the one with the Nailing the Holy One on it, that one's fucking awesome. I'd love to have a copy of that. But I don't know. This is a little less great than I expected it to be. It's just kind of like Swedish teenagers playing Slayer riffs over... kind of death metal beats. It's I might be taking that a little bit too far. It's just not as ingenuitive, I guess, as a lot of the other stuff that was going on at that time. And when stuff sounds too much like Slayer, I get bored or annoyed with it. But I've also been kind of like frustrated with metal. I haven't really listened to metal all that much lately. I've been listening to a lot of like slow country kind of stuff. Life's been kind of kicking my ass these days, but don't you worry, I'm doing fine. Picking up this Whoredom Rife album. This was on a lot of top year-end lists last year. And I found that everybody's list last year was kind of just... I wasn't interested in a lot of it. But this one, I listened to it for a minute and kind of enjoyed it and decided to pick it up from Dark Descent Records. And now that I have it, I don't know, it's a quick burn kind of thing. I've listened to it a couple of times, and it's just kind of a one-trick pony kind of deal. It just doesn't have that depth or musical complexity that a lot of the older black metal bands did. It's just not very sophisticated, and it's not that like black metal has to be complex or anything like that, but it's just there's not a lot of meat on the bone for me with this thing. But anyway, the album is called Domedagskvad, and maybe someday it'll blow my mind. I also picked up Father Befouled's new one. This is Desolate Gods. Two of my buddies are in this band, Justin Stubbs, Jay Stubbs, and Wayne Sarantopoulos plays drums. I talk about Wayne a lot in my videos, so decided to pick this up. Great, grimy American death metal. Gets compared to Incantation way too much. They are their own beast. And last but not least, I've got a stack of stuff from eBay. I got kind of swindled, I guess, but it doesn't really matter, and I don't really regret what I wound up getting. So I was looking at this eBay seller's stuff that he had for sale, and like he starts all his auctions out at like $2 or $3, and I can't help myself if I see like late 80s thrash albums that are kind of rare, or like early death metal records that are kind of rare, and they're starting off at $2 or $3. I'll bid them up to like $8, and then I'll just sit there, and if I lose them, I'm just like, fuck it, okay, I'll get it next time. But I went a little crazy, and after that, I realized that these aren't real releases. All but one of these are bootlegs. But I thought it was kind of worth visiting, I guess, the topic of bootlegs like this. It seems to be kind of a rampant thing going on right now, and I could see people like not really knowing what to think of it, or after the fact that most people I think would say this is killing the underground or stuff like that. But I mean, take something like this Sacrificial. This was one of them I picked up. Forever Entangled, killer release. Obviously a Russian bootleg, but they're not really profiting all that much off of this thing. I paid probably $4 for this, and they're not really making a profit off of this. I feel like stuff like this is done just out of the absolute fandom for the genre and the bands that they are reproducing these things for. I mean, sure, these guys could stand to make $1 or $2 off of a reissue of this. In fact, this was reissued by The Crypt in 2015 on LP, and I had it, but I just thought, why not bid on what I thought was an OG original copy of this thing for a couple of dollars, and if I lost it, oh well. But nobody's really making much money off of this thing. Actually, putting together a concerted effort to get the band to allow you to do a proper reissue of a lot of these releases is next to impossible in most cases. So it works in a way to thwart people who are charging way too much money for original copies of it. And I kind of appreciate that, because no one should have to pay upwards of $75 to $150 for original copies of an album that should be heard. And I think if we didn't have Russian bootlegs working to kind of counteract that sort of practice, we would just be stymied and this music would just die in obscurity. And then the bands of today would be less and less influenced by the music that was going on throughout the earlier times of the genre. So I feel like this kind of stuff really works to the betterment of the genre in a lot of different ways. So there's my take on the Russian bootlegs. Here's what I got. This is Death Row with Deception Ignored. This is my first Death Row album. Never really bothered to check them out much, but it was my buddy Marty Worm's video where he talked about this being like one of his favorite thrash records, and I was instantly interested. Since this is an old Noise release, I'm sure the packaging was minimal as well on this one, but this is great. Super fun late 80s thrash stuff. Really, really technical songwriting. I only listened to that, I think, maybe halfway through or so. Next we have, the Sacrificial, really, really killer, like, I don't know, Danish, I think, death metal. One of those just absolutely, I don't know, over the top, flying off the rails death metal bands. The vocals are like really, really hard to stomach. But music-wise, I can't actually, you ever listen to an album where you can't actually picture a band physically playing the music that you're listening to, especially if it's something that's like underproduced and sounds really live? This is just a fucking mind-blowing album. I seriously don't understand how these little fucking teenagers manage to not only write but perform and record such insane music. Next thing, I got a couple of releases from Allegiance, Sweden's Allegiance. So I do have their third album, Vred, but this is their first and second album recorded by Dan Swano, and then this one was recorded by Peter Tadgren. A lot of bands, I think, started out with Swano and went with Tadgren as they got more towards the 2000s. So this one came out in, I think, 95. This one came out in 97. These came out on No Fashion originally, so they're really hard to find for a decent price. So it was a way to keep myself from spending too much money on original copies of them. I thought, why not get these Russian bootlegs? So I guess another thing I should say about the Russian bootlegs thing is that these, at least, the sound quality on them does sound like it was sourced from possibly a high bitrate MP3 or something, so the dynamic range really isn't all that great like you would expect from a real CD. So that's kind of a hindrance, I guess, to it being worth the money. But again, I only paid a couple of bucks for these things. Great Swedish Viking metal. The drummer is Morgan Anderson, I think his name is, from Marduk. And this really bears a lot of resemblance to Marduk. I would say if you merged maybe Marduk and Borknagar, you would kind of have something like Allegiance. Really killer band. Next, this is an actual original copy of Babylon Sad, Kyrie. Now, this is just kind of a joke. I downloaded this because I thought the band name was absolutely hilarious. This album cover is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. But this is a great fucking record. Funny enough, the drummer went on to play for... shit, now I'm forgetting what they were called. I don't know. But it's another one of those kind of late 80s when thrash kind of went to turn into death metal kind of things. Bass player has the worst name. Look at this. Or maybe it's a guitar player. Dude's name is Christian Music. If you were playing in a death metal band, or really change your name from Christian Music. I don't understand that. But yeah, this was just kind of a thing that I became aware of because of how stupid it came off. But it's really, really great. It's super complex, super well produced. The guitar tone on it is incredible. The drumming is just insane. and the songwriting is really, really good. Next and last, really sorry, but this is Oblivion with Nemesis. I've always kind of meant to check out this band and get into them, grab one of their albums. So this is it. This is my foray into Oblivion. They have a couple albums before this, and now that I'm familiar with this Oblivion album, or Nemesis album, I think I'm more inclined to like the stuff before this one. There's a lot of thrash bands as you get more into the mid 90s or early 90s even, where they kind of tried to be more modern. God. And in that pursuit of trying to be more modern, they became a little less musical, a little less melodic, a little less harmonious, and kind of edged on a lot more like chunky riffing, a lot more technicality and just like rhythms and picking and palm muting kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff just kind of bores me. I think really the perfect kind of example of an album that is like a later era thrash album, early death metal, but they really pulled it off well, is Dark Angel's Time Does Not Heal. There's other albums that came out right along that time where they were just kind of getting a lot more ham-fisted and knuckle-dragging, and that kind of stuff just doesn't interest me at all. So this is kind of like that. It's really not all that bad, but I have a feeling that these guys are capable of a lot better than this record is, so I'm curious to check out their earlier stuff. I became aware of Oblivion because I was watching a video of Chuck Schuldiner recording Death's Human, maybe, in the studio, and he had an Oblivion shirt on, and so I should probably check out another Oblivion album. Anyways, we're going on 29 minutes here. That is it for today. I hope you liked it. Links down below. See you next time.